The movie begins with a former housemaid talking with her therapist. She reveals that the family she used to work for had a daughter named Nid, who had a toy monkey. The maid says that the monkey was quite weird, and sometimes it would even come alive and follow her around. Hearing this, the therapist tells her that what she saw was most likely an outcome of her own fears, but the maid is certain of what she saw. Furthermore, the maid explains that she also sees the spirit of a girl in the house, which she guesses is the ghost of the house's other maid. Having had enough of the suffering, the maid decides to quit her job and approaches her boss Uma, who's Nid's mother. Without much hesitation, Uma permits her to leave and requests her driver Chai to look for a new maid right away. Later, as Nid prepares to sleep, Uma advises her daughter not to listen to the maid and that the ghost does not exist. She then places the monkey doll next to Nid and prepares to leave, but just then, the doll comes to life. That night, Nid sees a terrible ghost in her house, in which the poor girl goes into shock. The following day, Uma and her husband Nirak seek medical attention for their daughter's condition. The doctor informs them that Nid has frontotemporal dementia, a type of inherited brain illness that causes her to have hallucinations and see her imaginary friend. Days later, a young woman named Joy is appointed as the new maid in the house. She meets with a senior maid named Mrs. Wan, who takes her inside the house and explains her duties. Apart from household duties, Joy is also responsible for taking care of Nid. Soon, Joy tries to strike up a conversation with Nid, but the little girl remains silent. And to add perspective, Mrs. Wan states that Joy suffers from a mental condition and hallucinates frequently, so she's not permitted to leave the house. Afterward, Chai drives Joy to her new residence, which is a lovely house with several rooms. After Chai leaves, Joy picks up her new uniform and poses in front of the mirror. But just then, she notices someone running upstairs. Curious about what just happened, she grabs a candle stand and follows the footsteps, only to notice someone standing at the end of the hallway. Naturally, Joy is too afraid to approach this strange figure, so she returns to her room. The following day, Joy meets Uma, who asks where she previously worked as a maid. Joy reveals that she used to work at a foreigner's house, but after a few months, the owners returned to their own country and sold the property. Later, we see Joy with Nid, and she soothes the little girl by humming a lullaby that her older sister used to sing. Then Joy places the doll next to Nid, and as she prepares to go, she notices someone standing in the corner, but when she turns around, no one's there. A while later, Joy, Mrs. Wan, and another maid named Bourne work together in the kitchen. A few moments later, Joy joins Nid in the bath, where the two begin to play with bubbles and have fun. Suddenly, Nid notices someone standing behind Joy at the entrance. Immediately, Joy checks if there's something unusual, but no one's near her. However, when she stands up, she sees a person standing behind her in the mirror. A few moments later, Joy asks Nid if she sees the ghost as well, and Nid nods her head. Next, after Nid falls asleep, Joy goes to Nirak's office and begins snooping for some clues. Eventually, she discovers a photograph in which Uma, Nirak, and another maid are standing together. Something is off about the photo because Nirak is looking at the maid rather than his wife. Just then, Joy notices the same maid's ghost standing in a corner. Obviously freaked out by this, she flees from there, only to discover that Nid has awoken. Just then, the little girl signals Joy to look inside the room, and the ghost appears once again. Freaked out of her mind, she then grabs Nid and hurries away from there. Following this, Joy tells Uma everything she's been witnessing recently, and Nid confirms that it's true since she saw the ghost herself. Joy even shows Uma the photo and informs her that the girl in the photo looks like a ghost. However, Uma dismisses her concerns, claiming that the woman was just their previous maid, and asks Joy to leave. However, after Joy leaves, Uma looks at the picture and begins reminiscing about her past. In a flashback, we see that the maid in the picture was a girl named Ploy. Uma's relationship with Narek was strained, and she was disappointed that her husband was uninterested in her beauty. Ploy, on the other hand, explains to her that she's very beautiful and everyone in the house loves her. As time passes, Uma begins to share everything with Ploy, and as their connection grows, the two get intimate with each other. In the present, Joy questions Mrs. Wan and Bourne about what happened to Ploy, but Mrs. Wan tells her to mind her own business and not meddle in other people's affairs. However, when she leaves, Bourne confesses that Ploy used to work there 5 years ago, but the poor girl went missing one day, and no one has seen her since. Later, Joy asks Chai about Ploy, and after some convincing, he discloses that Ploy was very close to Uma, and that the two were usually together. She eased Uma's loneliness and helped her forget her pain, but for some reason, Ploy eventually left the house without notifying anyone. But when Joy asks more questions about the girl, Chai becomes anxious and uses his asthma inhaler to relax. Afterward, when Joy goes to deliver medicine to Nid, she notices Uma yelling at her daughter. We see that Uma rips all the drawings off the wall and storms out of the room. Moments later, Joy goes inside and discovers that the majority of Nid's drawings feature 3 people. When she inquires as to who these people are, Nid replies that they're her parents and the previous maid. At this point, Joy finally realizes that Nid is referring to Ploy. Later, Joy walks past Narek's office and hears him apologize to Ploy. Then, for a brief period, she sees the ghost once again before it vanishes in thin air. Then Joy goes inside to tell Narek what she just saw, but instead, the man grabs the drawing and asks where she got it. Joy tells him she got it from Nid, after which Narek asks her to leave. Once he's all by himself, Narek sits down and stares at one of Ploy's pictures. Then, in a flashback, we see Ploy walk into his office and offer him tea. It turns out that Uma and Narek used to frequently dispute and disagree with each other due to Uma's inability to have a baby. When Narek asks if Uma had sent tea for him, Ploy responds that she's his maid and it's her duty to serve him. Following this, they begin to grow closer and eventually become intimate with each other. That night, while Joy is putting Nid to bed, she asks the little girl where Ploy is. And right at that moment, Ploy comes behind her, but when Joy looks back, she's already gone. But this time, instead of scaring them, Ploy leads Joy to various parts of the home to disclose her side of the story. Now, Joy sees Ploy informing Narek of her pregnancy, which delights him since it's something he's always wanted. In the following scene, he tells Uma about the pregnancy, who doesn't appear to mind. But in response, Uma sarcastically humiliates Narek, claiming that's all he can do, impregnate his maids. Eventually, Ploy gives birth to a beautiful girl, and Joy comes to learn that the baby is actually Nid. One day, Ploy puts the baby down and goes to prepare the bathtub. But moments after that, Nid begins to cry, and when Ploy rushes over to her, she slips and hits her head on the floor. After that, we see another flashback in which Ploy is revealed to be Joy's older sister. Ploy was obliged to work as a maid due to their family's financial situation. However, she used to send Joy letters about everything that was going on in the house. In the next scene, Joy sees a vision in which Uma finds Ploy injured. But instead of helping her, Uma abandons her to die. Following that, Mrs. Wan, Bourne, and Chai take care of the body and bury her in the yard. But in a creepy twist, Ploy begins to move in the grave, and it turns out that she's still alive. Narek notices this, but he decides to keep quiet since things have already gone off the rails, and they end up burying Ploy alive. In the present, Joy starts to cry after witnessing her sister's death. She then begins singing the lullaby that they used to sing as children, and Ploy's ghost appears behind her and starts singing with her. The following day, we see Joy discussing her progress with her therapist. Joy informs her that she got a new job and is doing well in life. When asked why she quit her previous job, Joy states that her employers have returned to their home country and sold the house. However, in a flashback, we see Joy murdering her previous employers because the husband was inappropriate towards her. Afterward, it's revealed that Uma's birthday is approaching, and a large party will be hosted in the house. That evening, guests begin to arrive, and Chai brings Joy from the servants' area to the main house. In the car, Joy inquires about Ploy once more, causing Chai to become nervous and suffer an asthma attack. She then gives him his inhaler, but soon after, Joy wraps a plastic bag around his head and suffocates him to death. She then walks into the kitchen where Bourne is working and asks her about Ploy. On the other hand, Uma's at the party and asks Mrs. Wan to bring their expensive wine for the guests. She also asks her to inform Chai to ready the car for guests after the party. Moments after that, Bourne awakens strapped to a chair, and Joy informs her that she knows about her involvement in the disposal of Ploy's body. Now, Joy secretly adds pills to the guests' drinks and then reveals her sinister plot to Bourne, intending to kill everyone. Meanwhile, Mrs. Wan walks outside to ask Chai to prepare the car, but she finds him unconscious. At first, Wan believes that the driver's sleeping, but she quickly discovers that he's not alive. Just then, Joy appears and injects her with something that instantly kills her. She then goes to the party and serves the drugged wine to all the guests. Shortly after that, she returns to Bourne and starts dancing in front of her. Now, Joy asks Bourne to dance as well, but when the woman refuses to comply, Joy grabs the knife and runs through her throat. Meanwhile, at the party, Narek thanks everyone for coming in and wishes his wife a happy birthday. Just then, Uma spots Ploy within the crowd, but it turns out to be Joy. A few moments after that, Narek goes upstairs to make a phone call, and Uma also leaves, asking Joy to look after the guests. We then see Uma entering her room and pulling out a few letters from her drawers. Following this, Joy puts on a headset for Nid so she doesn't hear what's going on downstairs. The guests at the party begin to feel ill, so Joy arrives and begins digging them at random. After all of them are dead, Joy goes to Uma's room to confront her. However, it turns out that Uma has already known the truth as she found the letters Joy wrote to her sister. Uma informs Joy that if she wanted to know about her sister, she didn't have to make up a ridiculous story. She then claims that Ploy just disappeared one day, and she had no idea where she went. Suddenly, Uma starts to feel sick, and Joy asks how it feels to be out of breath and dying slowly. Even in that condition, Uma jumps at Joy intending to kill her, but Joy eventually plows her to death. After this incident, we see Narek, who's talking with Uma's father. He claims he no longer wants money, a house, or his daughter. After the call, he takes a drink in a tense mood, but suddenly, Narek starts to feel nauseous. He then notices Ploy's ghost walking by and follows her downstairs, where he sees that all the guests have died. And as he walks towards the entrance, Narek notices that the house is burning in fire. Just then, Ploy appears in front of him and brutally runs the knife through him. However, it's soon revealed that it was Joy who killed him, not Ploy. Now, as Narek slowly dies on the ground, Ploy's spirit also lies beside him. Following this, Joy awakens Nid and informs her that they're going somewhere far away. But as they leave the house, Joy starts to break down in tears while remembering her sister, and the movie comes to an end.